Good day viewers, welcome to the Bushveld Barons channel. For tonight we'll just have a chat about bushpig hunting. This is something I've been getting into the past year and a half. Before this I've done a lot of warthog hunting. So the main difference between warthogs and bushpigs: warthogs are daytime pigs, so you'll find them across the savannas in the bushveld, mostly during the day. When it comes to bushpig hunting, you've got a couple of methods to hunt these guys. So one method is baiting up a site, either with soured corn, carrion, so the guts, intestines of an animal. These guys will eat meat, and they love carrion that's gone off, that's got a very, very stinky smell to it. In general, they operate at night, so you have the baiting option to hunt them. You have the option of thermal and nighttime optics to shoot them should you come to a nesting site, and then the third option that we apply would be the use of hunting dogs. Now these pigs are marathon runners. These guys do not take nonsense. On the hunt that I did last week Tuesday, we clocked 32 kilometers chasing just after 2 pigs. So once these guys hit the ground running, they can run a marathon. So we use blue tick coonhounds, red tick coonhounds, as well as black and tan coonhounds. So background on the bushpig. This book, it's called Shot Placement, The Facts Speak. What the authors has done, they give you a breakdown of the animal, and then what they've also done is they've frozen animals, and they've halved the carcasses so you can see the exact anatomy within the animal. So on the background it says, as far as the most common huntable species are concerned, the bushpig is probably the most aggressive. Many a hunter who had the unfortunate experience of meeting a bushpig face to face carries the scars thereof. And not just hunters, guys. These guys will bug up your dogs. We've had numerous cases where dogs' legs had to be amputated, where arteries got separated as well as ligaments. So these guys do not take nonsense, especially the sows. Once they've got piglets, they are extremely dangerous. The next sentence, as it states, often dogs that, in a deed of bravery, try to round up a bushpig share a similar experience, just like I said now. An emergency visit to the vet is usually inevitable, and many dogs perish eventually. Although the bushpig tusks are shorter than a warthog's tusks, they are razor sharp, and this is genuinely the fact. The bushpig will use them as weapons of attack or defend themselves, especially in situations when they feel threatened. The meat of a bushpig carcass has a red color, similar to that of an impala and a springbuck, and differs from the meat of a warthog carcass. That is exactly the case. Warthog is a lot more whiter in appearance, the meat itself, but I prefer bushpig meat in general. It makes nice sausages. The meat is very tasty, and that is precisely the reason why so many people choose to farm with bushpigs and European wild boar, specifically in South Africa. The species is also favored by hunters for trophy hunts, and one finds that as a trophy many hunters opt for a full mount of the animal. When we come to the general observations page, the brain is very small and located high up in the skull. Point number 1. The frontal anterior section of the skull is relatively thin and yields relatively little protection to the brain. Section 2. So that's essentially where the eyes are located. The snout is long, a large piece of cartilage at the front, and the end of the snout effectively extends the snout over here. So this just basically gives you a breakdown of what the animal looks like inside. Like I said, these were frozen up carcasses by the authors. They cut it in half so you can see exactly where to shoot. So if you've got a side-on shot, a shoulder shot, that would be the spot to shoot it. Just above the where you would call the shield, essentially where the shield is located on a ball. So that's just a breakdown of bushpigs in general. Coming back to this photo as well, here's shot placement on this specific picture as well, right there, and then for headshots right there. The one that I took last week, I've shot it right through the ear, and it entered the spine over here, dropped it. So when we hunt with dogs, you've got a very narrow opportunity, shooting opportunity. You've got at least, if you're lucky, you've got at least 5 or 6 seconds before the dogs reach the pig. So you've got to take quick and precise shots. And for this, on my rifles, I either shoot open sights. I'll get into another video on my rifle setups, what I use for these animals, and then the specific setups and calibers. What I'll do is I'll cover it caliber by caliber. That will be better. But the use of semi-auto rifles is allowed within South Africa. These are actually considered pest animals, varmint animals. So you've got no bag limits according to provincial government gazettes. So that's legislation governing the number of animals a hunter is allowed to take in each province. So each province within South Africa will have its own government gazette, and that gazette will indicate your bag limits for specific animals. But bush pigs specifically, they become problematic for farmers that farm with maize. So once the maize starts making heads, the physical corn cob, these guys will go out and devour maize fields almost at the endless basis. So maize farmers have a problem with them, so we sort them out for maize farmers. And then another problem with certain farmers is some guys farm with macadamia trees. So what these pigs will do is they will physically push over the little tree, the smaller trees, and then basically just to get to the nuts, and in essence destroying the tree for future growth. So it becomes a major problematic when it comes to cost implications and macadamias, because they have a long time to grow, and they're very costly to manage in essence. So in the Eastern Cape where I hunt, these guys eat maize. So we, like I said, we sort them out in the maize fields and the macadamia plantations. So that's just a breakdown of the animal itself. So this will be the first introduction section of the video. The following items will be items I carry on a hunt, specific to bush pig hunting, some essentials. Okay, so for number 1, cheap radios. Can't go wrong with this. We hunt in very mountainous terrain. You need radio communication where there's no cell phone signal, and not just that, your equipment takes a beating. So for example, this is Baofeng, very cheap radios. It's about 350 Rand in South Africa. So if this thing breaks or you whack it against a rock or whatever the case may be, it's a consumable item and it's cheap to replace. And I find that they work very well for up to, say, 4 kilometers. Obviously it depends on the terrain. In between mountains, about 1 to 2 kilometers of point-to-point communication. But cheap radios, that's the way to go. So that's the first section of what I carry during a hunt. Definitely comms, very important. Then on my body, on my hunting belt, I've got 2 dedicated knives that I use. So the first knife that I've got, it's stainless steel. It's made by a gentleman with the name of Bushpig. So it's a South African based company. He makes custom knives. The gentleman's name is Nathan. Very, very good quality knives. Sharp as a razor. So this is my main go-to knife when I go hunting. There's an ebony handle, brass pins, nice brass forend over here, and like I said, this has got a sandblasted finish. Very, very good knives. Keeps its edge, and this has skinned numerous bushpigs. So this is the one knife. Then the following knife, this is my crown jewel, if I can call it that. So also made by Bushpig knives, bit more pointier end. This is my pig stick. So should I need to give a stick to the heart on a pig, this is what I use. So I added in laser engraved. He does laser engraving as well. So this is German, Bushwine, which just translates into English as Bushpig. So this is obviously the shinier stainless steel finish. It's not sandblasted. So this is my crown jewel. The handle itself, this is giraffe bone. Very, very beautiful. So this I would carry, and then we'll come to my third and final knife that I essentially use for bushpig hunting, and that would be my skinning knife. Also made by Bushpig by Nathan. Same inscription, Bushwine, Bushpig, but the only difference on this, it's also stainless steel. You've got a nice cutting edge over here, and especially for skinning. This is a skinner. This works excellently on skinning animals. The only difference here is this is a warthog tusk handle, so it's essentially ivory. He does beautiful mosaic pins as well, and then there's normal brass cross bolts as well. This I would generally keep post hunting, so this will be in my vehicle. It won't be on me while I hunt. Once we've shot the animal, we'll gut it on the spot. It just depends on the season. If it's summer, we have to skin it and gut it quickly because of the heat. In South Africa, the temperatures often exceed 35 degrees Celsius in the summer. And then in winters you've got a bit more leeway in terms of skinning and degutting the physical pig. So these are my three go-to knives, but this is my major workhorse, the one with the ebony handle. So we've covered radios, like I said, cheap radios, knives, a bit more expensive but proper quality. You can obviously use cheaper knives if you want to get into the hobby, but now I find having custom knives suited to your hand grip definitely makes a difference. And then Nathan also offers a sharpening service, so I just post this to him and then he sharpens it to the exact same bevel and cutting angle, so I don't have to stress about using, for example, a Lansky system to sharpen my knives. So we've covered radios, knives that will be on me during a hunt, and obviously it's recommended to have this if you want to get into the hobby. The initial costs of getting into the hunting of bush pigs is pretty expensive. Obviously, once you've got your rifle, you've got your radios, knives, we have to look at dogs. So, as mentioned before, we use coonhounds, so you need at least a pack of minimum of 12 dogs. So, they essentially run relays. that comes to my next point. So I use Garmin Alpha 200 dog tracker. The only problem I found with this device is the antenna loses tracks of dogs very quickly in mountainous terrain. So I am going to order a flexible extended antenna for this device. So just to give you an idea of the hunt that we did, well, I shot the 2 pigs. If you look at our chip computer, that was 34 kilometers just for one day. These, like I said, these pigs run, they are absolute marathon runners. So yes, dog tracking devices, expensive setup initially, but once you've got it, you've got it. I would advise getting protective covers. I'm waiting for mine. And like I said, the only upgrade I need on this is the extended antenna to pick up the dog collars, because I lose comms pretty quickly in mountainous terrain. So the terrain differs in the Eastern Cape. Sometimes it's flatter terrain depending on where we hunt, and I would say about 70% of the time it's within the mountains. So yeah, that comes to the other point of you need to be physically fit to do this. This is a hard hunting sport. It's thoroughly enjoyable, but you need to be fit to do it. And obviously with the Alpha 200, it comes the collars, TT15Xs, that's what we use. Work never let me down so far. Also a consumable item in terms of the collar itself, antenna whips, etc. So that's where what I mean with the initial setup cost for hunting bush pigs becomes pretty expensive. Apart from your firearms that you have to use, tracking devices, Garmin is, especially in South Africa with the exchange rates and stuff, that with the rand dollar rate, it's pretty expensive for us South Africans. So if you have to compare apples to apples, the chaps in America will find this maybe a bit more affordable than us, but for us as South Africans, this is more than some people's salaries. More than 70% of the population's average salary, this is more expensive than that. So to give you an idea. So we've covered radio, we've covered my knives, we've covered dog tracking devices. So what we essentially do is we run a minimum of 12 dogs, and then we run relays for 4 dogs at a time. If the dogs start overeating, we release a fresh batch of 4 dogs. And that's also another problem, is you can't use say Kevlar shields in bush pig hunting on bush pig dogs, because of the distances that the dogs run. The dogs simply overeat. It's not the type of hunting where, for example, in Australia, where you use a buggy or a Toyota Land Cruiser, and you've got your dogs in the back and you drop them off and the pig is 100 meters in front of the vehicle. It doesn't work like that in bush pig hunting. The dogs need to go through tough terrain, thickets, so it will never work. And not just that, it overeats the dogs. So this is long distance hunting, marathon hunting essentially. So when it comes to expenses again, veterinary expenses, lots of cuts on dogs, open wounds, and when it comes to pretty severe cases, you'll have amputations on a rear leg or a frontal leg on a dog. We have a dog that has 3 legs. His right rear leg has been amputated, but that dog still hunts. But he's got maybe 6 months left. He's a pensioner. It's time for him to retire, and his name is Spot. So my friend Jeremy, he runs Old Spot. That's his old faithful dog, but like I said, he has become a pensioner. What I'll do in future videos, I will cover calibers. This is basically just an introduction of bushpig hunting, some basic equipment that is required to be able to perform these hunts, and most importantly in the next videos will be calibers. And then I'll also have a discussion on the setups that I have, running red dots, running open sights, why, and the logic behind it. So stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.